It's Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff, and I haven't really been doing any videos in a long time. I've had Wi-Fi issues, and the other thing too is I've been doing a lot of my own processing and spiritual work, and kind of dived into that for a bit. And I've been getting a lot of sleep. The last few years have been really busy, and I just kind of hit an exhaustion wall. So I just been really focusing in on, eating vegan and resting and things like that. So sorry, I have Sunday morning scary. So I know that sometimes people like to email me and tell me to put some bling on or shower. And, the thing is, I just don't want to set things up. I want to be able to talk about things in a very, normal, average kind of, way. So anyway, I'm just noticing I have some weird swelling on my eye. Obviously, I haven't really looked at myself this morning, but who knows? Could have gotten munched on, or who knows what the heck it is. So anyway, if it's bothering you, I just noticed it. So don't look at it. Could be anything. So I want to just kind of talk to people about the whole ascension idea. Mind control, Ultra K programs have been going on a long time. I'm not saying that you can't reach spiritual heights. But it requires a huge amount of work and a huge amount of effort on your part. And it requires you to kind of walk away from what you would consider a normal life, find teachers, and start to do the practices. I've worked with a lot of people who are conscious, but we're missing a lot of pieces to their own, we'll call it their own salvation. And ascension is just this whole idea of another Jesus Christ, since a lot of people have moved from the church can't hold the mind control over people. They've moved into this whole new age ascension idea. And to make it really legit, the Catholic churches come out against it and all this other stuff. So it makes people more motivated to, believe. So people are talking about how we've moved into the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. And so it's all a play of vocabulary and language. So in the mainstream, what is really going on with the 5? Oh, 5G? What do they say that 5G can do? It can go at the same speed of thought. So you see them putting up all these cell phone towers everywhere. The smart meters on your house. It isn't ascension. You're not feeling ascension symptoms like all these people are reporting. You're feeling the mind control of an electronic system that can literally give you hallucinations. I mean, in the process of it all, you can get blindness. You can have vision problems. You can have heart problems, heart palpitations. You can have a lot of anxiety, panic, and all kinds of different things with the smart meters and the cell phone towers and Wi-Fi. I mean, the government and even cell phone industries and all these people know all this stuff. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. So 5G, fifth dimension. So a lot of these symptoms that people feel are a direct result. And the last week, I periodically stay at a friend of mine's condo, but right down the hall is 200 smart meters inside. And so the last week's been really difficult. So, I have to leave a lot because I can feel whatever they're activating moving into that 5G. I can feel it. It makes me nauseous. I have a lot of stressed out. I can really feel it at the base of my head. I have like weird blurry vision that happens. And used to be you could feel the smart meters kick on and off. Now it's just like one long intense deal. So I was at the center to teach my class, and I hadn't noticed that there's like this giant cell phone tower right next door. And I could literally feel it when I pulled up. I can feel the, the waves that are coming out. That changes the brainwave patterning of our brain. And a lot of people don't realize that our Earth, what do they call it? The frequency of the Earth, each planet has their own frequency. The Earth has its own frequency. And I forget what the guy's name who wrote on it. Maybe it'll come to me. But our heart is regulated. Our heart needs to run at that same frequency, that same megahertz. So that's why it's important to like go barefoot out in nature on grass, because it helps your heart rhythm to regulate itself to the same frequency, the Schumann, to the same frequency of the Earth, right? There's all these things that the original design of this planet and how it operates, but it's been really hijacked. And there's been a lot of, it's a computer system. Some native people that I've studied with, they call it the creator, the great computer in the sky. So the original, let's just say the original hard drive program of the computer system, has been hijacked over and over again by different extraterrestrials, humans, whatever else. Well, now we're getting ready for the big hijacking, which means full control of your mind and full control of your body and how you react to the world. So pay attention to what is going on. 5G is the same as the propaganda being pushed. And this is the other thing too, is a lot of these spiritual people and channelers and all these people that are pushing a lot of this stuff. I know that I can reach higher planes of existence. I've done it. I've been working on those practices my whole life. So I know it's attainable. It's just hard. It's a choice. You don't get to live, the way you want to live. And also at the same time, like practice the spiritual life. I mean, the problem is that we're separatized, right? We got a left brain and a right brain that don't work together, that aren't even in sync anymore. So we live these lives of wanting to have the spiritual stuff, dabbling in spiritual stuff, but then we're living this very left brain physical existence. It's a unified field, and the unification starts with you. If you can't get both of your lobes in sync and living a whole life, one in perfection, you can't bring all of your separatized, programming together into one unified place, then there's no way that you're going to be able to obtain anything. And ascension isn't going to help you, right? Ascension is bullshit. It's, and then add in all the chemtrails and the metal and how much metal is in our bodies now and how that makes us like a radio, right? Like a radio receiver antenna for not spiritual purposes anymore, because we're mostly metallic because of all of the aluminum and lead and everything that they put in the chemtrails and lithium that is in our body, that it makes us an antenna for them. And then they're making propaganda about, we've moved into the fifth dimension. And people believe this stuff because they're having these symptoms when they're not paying attention to the smart meters that were put on their house, or the 500 smart meters that are down the hall in their building, in the apartment building that they live in, that's changing their heart rates, that's making them see things, giving them blurry vision, and they think they're seeing symbols and all this other stuff. They're changing the brainwave chemistry, and they're changing the frequency so that you're no longer connected. You're not a natural antenna on the earth, getting your antenna, frequencies from the cosmos. It's broken. And now it's really broken. And it's getting ready to pick up some serious speed with the 5G. And I can feel it. Like, I'm just thinking, okay, it's winter. Sometimes I like to stay inside places, because it's been kind of rough living, pretty much in my van. The last, not this winter, but the 3 winters before were, well, the 2 before last winter were really brutal, where I lived in my van or, a trailer without power or electricity, at like 7 degrees. It was tough, but, I did it. It almost killed me, but I felt a lot better in those conditions because I could be, way out in the desert, away from any EMF, away from any kind of electrical currents, any kind of cell phone towers. I haven't had a cell phone since like 2008 because I had brain cancer. And not that I feel like the cell phone contributed to it, but I feel that it would bring it back, or it would bring in a different kind of brain cancer. And because it's radiation, radiation type cancers, you can't heal even with alternative stuff. So you have to be make some serious decisions here about what's getting ready to happen. And I'm not really sure children are going to be able to handle this whole 5G thing. I mean, they're going to be implanted with whatever that they want to put into the system once that rolls out. I mean, we're talking full mind control, and people think it's a spiritual thing that's happening, and they go online and they think, oh yeah, it's a spiritual this, it's a spiritual that, it's, it's happening. But it's 5G. It's a simulated mind control in this world, fake ascension trip. So you have choices to not participate, which means that you're going to have to move out of the city. You're going to have to move yourself to a shack. You're going to have to move your family to a shack so that you can have control over your own mind, because you're not going to have control over your mind. You're not going to have control over your body. You're not going to have control over anything anymore. When they have a wave, when they've manifested a frequency and a wave that changes, that they already know 4G changes the brain wave, the frequency of the brain. So they already are being able to control you like a robot and android, just not enough, right? To get the signal of, hey, go kill someone. I mean, some people are picking up the signal. You see these shooters that are involved in, mind control programs that may not even know it, that run a little bipolar, that run a little bit schizophrenia already. And then the smart meters and the cell phones and the cell phone towers really are 4G's ample enough that it can actually control and run their systems and overrun their brain to do things that they normally probably wouldn't do. So just think, when they amplify it up to the 5G, for those of us who have a stable brainwave pattern or have a level of consciousness, what that's going to do. And the other thing too is I want to tell people is, so a lot of the things too that, a lot of the reasons I haven't been doing videos is because there's a lot of things that I just don't even really know how to communicate to the public. And I know that I should, but I just, it's so overwhelming to do so. So overwhelming and emotionally complicated to do so. The other thing too I want to talk about is the Mandela Effect. A lot of people are watching that, and the Mandela Effect has been going on forever, since the beginning of time. The way that this design of this planet and the computer hard drive function, everything gets downloaded into it, right? So everything, every memory, every feeling. This is why things are so really negative right now, because most of the experiences for the last 38,000 years have been horrifying on this planet. So there's an accumulation of horror. So what the system, gives you, the projection, is more horror and more horror going on in this world, because that's the main program that's being driven. So past, present, and future. And, if New Age Mandela people would go do some research, go study some indigenous information, and even like the Vedas or the India, people from India. There's Asians that have oral history and written history, and like 50,000 years old, where they talk about a lot of this stuff. It's not as clean as it could be, but the information is there. And so these New Age people are like just popping up, making their new terms about this reality and trying to explain it. And, the thing is that past, present, and future has always been happening on this planet. As soon as the planet was designed and conceptualized and everything was moved forward to create it, right? So people have always been able to, with practice, spiritual practice, have always been able to tap into, and most of it you see it in America, most of it, the information is indigenous. For example, like the book Black Elk, read a lot of stuff about Black Elk, where he talks about how, there's a stream and that there's like a rope that connects us, or we can connect into. He kind of describes it as a rope that connects us, or we're connected to it, or we're not connected. And every bit of information, past, present, and future, is in that stream. But you have to be in a spiritual place where you can focus and tap into unlimited information, not just what you want, what your attention is stuck on, right? But all that information's in there, past, present, and future. Everything that's ever happened here, past, present, and future, is in that field. I call it the stream. It's in the stream. Because my work is a lot like that. Like, I've been tapping into what I call a stream. And so when I started reading, stuff about Black Elk, I was like, wow, this is exactly, what I've been taught to do, what my training has been teaching me how to do. And in that field, there's also information about other planets, because, see, the original design of this planet was to be a library of information, and physical. So people would, it was like in the center of a lot of transportation lines, let's just say that. And so the whole idea was to create this planet that had that had everything that they could figure out to put on one planet. And then it would have like a holographic library. So any new race, whether it's galactic or whatever else that was coming through, could actually download this information. It would play in the library. So other races, other galaxies, universes, interdimensional, would know exactly where these people were, what they had on their planet, what they were doing, how they came about Earth, and what their interest in Earth was. And so they were planting all kinds of different plants from all kinds of other worlds that were like brought here. And then everything was cultivated, grown, the water, blah, 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 blah. So in the original hard drive is the original data of the design of this planet and all of the information contained in it. But it's really overshadowed now because we have horror murder, violence, and everything else that has been infiltrated into, like viruses, into the system. And so those play out more and more to where we don't really understand the previous hard drive computer systems. So anyone at any point in time can tap into past, present, and future in the original hard drive of the system. It's available to anyone at any time, and it's been there since the beginning of time. Every teacher I've ever had, guru, shaman, medicine person, I've just ran across so many masters that I don't even know how it happens, but I'm grateful because they have just really taught me a lot. Kind of like every time I try to go to sleep and check out, one shows up on my path and they shake me back awake and help me to keep standing straighter and straighter and straighter and pulling from this information. So the thing is that it's not a Mandela effect, Mandela effect, or whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. It's the original hard drive of the computer system, and you can sometimes entertain it by going in and out of it. And this is the other big thing I want to talk about with the Mandela effect is that one of the things that I was taught, I had this teacher, and I would kind of go to this teacher for like petty stuff, and why haven't I gotten married? Why don't I date? Why can't I find somebody who is conscious enough to participate in, co-creation, blah, 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 And he asked me one time why I was stuck in this moment, in this particular lifetime, in particular time. Because there's so much more out there. Past, present, and future are happening simultaneously. So why are you fixated here? If you were evolved enough and trained enough, you could just flutter around into your future lives and your past lives or your lives on other planets and things like that. This work has actually propelled me to do future work with people to see what their timelines are moving them towards and what illnesses are being created from their future lives. And some of the stuff in the future is horrific. So I know exactly what these people are doing on this planet and the timelines that they've already calculated and the future that's already being created based on stuff that's going on now and other timelines. But anyway, so what happened was that I learned from some of my teachers that, for example, I had a relationship, and I'm going to tell you, he was the only guy that I ever really loved in my entire life, but it was very, very bad for me. And so there was a part of me that was strong enough to say, gotta go, can't participate in this relationship anymore. But there would be these, over the last 20 years, there'd be these really freaky flashes that would come up about we were still in some kind of relationship, or at night when I would be dreaming, not real dreaming, more like third attention dreaming, that I would be interacting with him as if we were still together. We traveled together, all kinds of really bizarre stuff. And I would find myself harboring these emotions from the original breakup of my timeline now, right? And what I came to find out through my training and teaching was that because it was such a difficult decision for me to make, that there was part of me that fractured off, that continued a relationship with him down another timeline and that we're still together. And so that would bleed in and out of my timeline here because of my elevated consciousness, right? So I don't know if that makes sense, but so it's not a Mandela effect. It is the computer hard drive system and the original workings of it and how it works and how past, present, and future are happening simultaneously. And then on top of it, we have these timelines because of trauma, that come from like deep levels of emotional distress, that we decide not to be traveling down that timeline anymore, and that we make a hard right, but part of us is still going down that timeline. Part of us fractured off and did the hard right, made the hard right decision and moved down that timeline. So while we're alive in this body, we have timelines of parts of ourselves that are living out other lives. We also have this other thing that's added on that one of the guys in what the bleep coined as quantum jumping. I've done that a lot, where I've been in the third attention dreaming at night while I'm asleep, and I've been in the body of somebody else. I mean, they're there, right? But for example, the last one I had, the woman was young. She was like 21, beautiful, spoke a language I didn't recognize. It was in a college. She was working with her professor, so I think she was probably in a higher education program. She'd been working on kind of a book, looked like to me like a thesis, and her teacher were discussing it, and I was clearly aware that there was like a romantic relationship that was secretive. So I could pick up on a lot of things that were going on, even though I couldn't understand the language. And I think that I ended up in her timeline at that point in time, in her as a secondary mind person to help her to make a hard emotional decision, because I was looking at the situation in a whole different way because I couldn't understand the language. So I was emotionally picking it up in a way where I was viewing what she was involved with at the point in time of her decision that she needed to make. And so I kind of emotionally wasn't neutral about that. I felt that it was really wrong of her professor to be carrying out this relationship with her. And that as more information seemed to emotionally unfold, that he was like married, had a family, and she dearly loved him. And she was hoping that this book would bring them together kind of as a co-author. But she was going to have to make a hard decision. And I think that she brought me to her, or I was out in the third attention doing my work, and we kind of came together because I had made a decision that was similar to that, and I made a hard right. So I think that I was brought in to help her to make a choice. So I have no idea what her choice was going to be, but we also have all these other things that are going on while we're in timelines. I mean, you can't just explain it by the Mandela effect, because there's so much other stuff that's going on simultaneously. And that there's a way bigger picture here. And there's a way bigger place to tap into that has all the information. But you have to do it. You have to go in. You have to do the training. You have to do the work so that you can tap into what I call the stream, or the hard drive, computer original hard drive, well, that's been added to it. And there's like all kinds of viruses and all kinds of stuff. And the funny thing is, I got a friend of mine today say, I don't want to watch YouTube anymore because I don't know what's real anymore. Well, the thing is, none of it is real. And at the same time, it's all real. But it depends on where you're at, who you are in that moment, and what you're tapped into, right? And what part of the stream are you tapped into? And I don't think it's as easy as, thinking good thoughts and thinking negative thoughts. See, once some information is put into the system, the computer runs with it. And then what happens is it creates a whole programming system around it. And then there's all this other information that mounts to support that information, right? So everything's real and everything's not real. So for example, let's talk about Emoto. Now, are there ceremonies that the original people were placed on the planet with that we call, those of us that understand them, call technologies? The ceremonies are total technologies. They activate all kinds of stuff, and they were originally brought here to do those ceremonies to keep the original design of the earth, the plants and the water and everything else going, and going in a very good way, right? Until it got all hijacked. So there are ceremonies that you do with water, and we'll just stick with water, that activate and clean and purify. Every time there's like murder, massacre on water, it destroys the vibration of that water and the information and knowledge and data that is contained in that water, because it has its own computer system. But when you contaminate it with the same power in which it was created, right? Like spells, ceremonies, rituals. I mean, I always look at ceremonies, native ceremonies, as pure technologies, and add good data and activate the good data and activate the hard drive information. And then you have rituals, which are the dark energies and the dark forces that counter-activate or pollute a virus. They're like a virus that goes into the hard drive data. So there are ceremonies that can be done on water that activate it back to its original structure. And I've done that. Go to the ceremony that I did at Pyramid Lake in my YouTube channel. It talks about what I uncovered that had been piled on top of the water out there to cause ritualized virus destruction in the main hard drive of the water out there, right? So if we're not drinking water that's light, right, or has the main information of the original hard drive system, and we're drinking the water that's been contaminated by murder and ritual and blah, 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 then you become more of that. You become more of whatever it is, because it's a download, right? Try to get, you get a bad virus on your computer that takes over your computer. What happens? And when you're a physical body, where in the hell are you going to go to solve that? I don't know, traditional, original medicine of the people who were trained, who come from bloodlines who were trained when the planet first started. I mean, all of it's kind of contaminated at this point, but there are little pieces and gems of data. So then you have say all that's wiped out, right, of the indigenous people and how they kept all the original data, the original information, the original hard drive clean using technologies and activations and, all this other stuff. So that's all wiped out. Then they add in ritualized stuff that contaminates it, breaks it down, destroys it, infects it. That's a good word. Ooh, thank you, Spirit. Infection. It infects it. So then you have people like Emoto that pop out, boom, right? And create this whole work of creating structure in the water. But see, the water already knew it, right? It already had the hard drive. And then he did kind of experiments on changing the water, changing its mind. Well, it wasn't changing its mind. It was just bringing the original hard drive data up to the forefront of what its originality was. And periodically, the things on this planet other than us will decide that they don't want that programming anymore. Go and look at scientific reports of sheetgrass. Like there was a scientist that was trying to figure out a way to disable sheetgrass because it was covering the plant. It's all over Nevada, and it causes a lot of fires, and it's really kind of a crappy plant. I mean, obviously it's serving a purpose. So for 20 years in a lab, he mutated it, studied its DNA, tried to implant new DNA, and it just really messed with sheetgrass's mind. The original program, the hard drive, he's just trying to figure out how to destroy it, right? Damage it. And then like 20 years later, the sheetgrass, all of a sudden, they go into the lab and they couldn't believe it, that the sheetgrass had returned to its original form 20 years ago. Why? Because there was a moment that the sheetgrass said, no, going back to the original hard drive. I'm going back to my original system. And I'm not playing games anymore with these people in this lab. Right? So the only way that could happen is if it already is. That it already is. Right? So then once Emoto started doing his water stuff, then what happened was that the computer system in the hard drive, they start creating more programs that are related to that kind of stuff. And so more information starts to come around. And now that we do everything by computers and hard drives, the only way that they realize that they can take us completely over is if their computers override the original hard drive computers. And this is Wi-Fi, this is smart meters, this is cell phones, and cell phone towers. And right now, we're moments away from complete and total control. And people out there don't understand all of this. And they're playing a very dangerous game by leading people to believe that this is ascension systems. And you know what? If you're new to my channel, go look for the video, Why Not to Believe Channelers Bullshit. Because I've had, years ago, working with my native teacher, incidences that led me to believe that channelers are channeling reptilian beings. And so of course, they're going to help lead you towards this agenda. But people channel these things without any question, right? Because in shamanism, sorcery, we learn that because of our self-importance, there's something broken in us and we're easy to conspire and believe things and then project those things back out inside into the world. So, if you want to rise above it, you want to tap into the original systems, if you want to reach higher levels. Oh, and let me just say this last thing is past lives. Those lives are probably not yours, right? Everything is in the computer program and system, right? So you go in and you want to look at past lives or whatever else. There is no guarantee that that's your past life, because it's all an information stream, right? But because it's so new to you or whoever that's doing it, hypnosis can lead you to tap into the stream, but it's not your information. It's the all information. It's what I call the everything. Anything that was light, sound, noise, story, it's all the everything, right? It is the holographic computer system that was originally started and that it's being hijacked, right? You could also go to another video of an experience where I was shown who and what God or creator really is, and it's the no thing or the nothing, right? So the everything is it's complicated, it's messed up, you can't believe it, and so you have to be really careful about the things that you start taking into your belief systems because you don't have enough information, you don't have enough knowledge, you don't have enough wisdom, and you could easily be led astray. All right? And I'm telling people this to help them to maybe open your mind broader and get ready for the battle. The 5G, fifth dimension bullshit is getting ready to really take off. And it is not going to be pretty. Thanks for living. Thanks for living. Thanks for listening, Bridgette Lyn Dolgoff. I hope this helps you. It's only meant to help. For you to be able to use your critical mind to understand some of the things that are going on. And for you to save yourself and not believe in anything outside of yourself that's going to save you or somehow allow you past your own personal responsibility, which means that you need to get physical on this planet and physically get physical. Chop wood and carry that water. And anything that tells you that you don't have to chop wood and carry water, it's only a matter of time, is a lie. Okay, adios. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.